Welcome back to Beyond the Stars with Tim and Jeff.
Welcome to mysteries, laughing, shadows, twisted beams. JeffMara and Tim Tactical, yes it's real, yes it's real.
Tim, it's great to be with you again. And on our previous episode, you were talking about being six. And I'd like to start with being six and know a little bit more about it. So, what was it like for you to sit with this being?
First of all, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Last Saturday, the watch party was amazing. It was absolutely blissful to be in the space of being six, especially because I came from the projects with the Grays, which was tiring, but and also being in like the background and in the environment of these groups that I used to work for. So basically being brought into this new project with Being Six, I wasn't aware that it's going to be so loving, but the moment when this contact arose and I saw this blue fraction of blue light appearing in front of me, extremely crisp. I heard that voice talking to me in this very, very loving, but very calm voice too, in perfect German, by the way. It was just filling me up with a sense of liberation, of freedom, of feeling loved, of being aware that the universe has a purpose, and that purpose is to make us feel connected, make us feel not alone anymore, make us feel home in an endless opportunities of what home can be defined as. And all of that washed over me in the very second when I had contact with Being Six. It was just lovely, beautiful, and a very, very blissful experience. And ever since, and my perspective has grown over time because I clearly came from these programs, and there were moments where I was like a little bit resisting this type of intense love. And I think that is a normal path for a lot of beings. Because we are all either on the path of love or we are establishing a path of love for ourselves. And by love, I know that the word love is crazily has way too much in use in the human language, because there are so many definitions of what love actually means. But being in this blissful state was just one of the most beautiful experiences in my life. And ever since, I'm feeling that bliss in myself, and I'm seeing that in other beings, and I'm thinking that I'm doing quite a good job to reveal that in other beings as well, because ultimately Being Six, as an experimental life form, which we're going to dive into what that means, was telling us that they flooded the earth actually with members of their family, because it's such a huge collective of beings, of different species, of different entities, that it makes up 99.9999% of all beings and particles and individuals and collectives and species and ETs in the universe. And they're all just connected by this one thought of, we're making this our own home. And that is why it's defined as a mindset being.
Are you saying that we are all being six?
Well, this is a very personal path. So everyone is in the making of becoming something themselves. However, it shows that Being Six, and that again, that is a name that these classified projects have given this life form. And in the beginning of that project, it was classified as so-called an experimental life form, because people did not know what's going to appear and what's going to show. It was something that originated 80 years back. That is where the thought of, hey, we can connect to something that is beyond this dimension, beyond this reality. There is life there, and we can connect to that. So they called that Lebensform 6 or Life Form 6, which I translated into Being Six, for the one reason, because life form is something that is already formed into life, while being six is a mindset life form, which means it is a very exotic type of life. It is alive, it is intelligent, you can talk, you can connect with these beings, with this collective of beings, but it doesn't give you a rule book or any type of way how you need to be to become a member of them. So there's not a list where it says like, hey, you gotta, you gotta wear a tie, you gotta be, I don't know, coming from the US or Germany or somewhere, and everyone else is excluded. No, the only thing that makes up being six and 99.9% of all beings is that they all agree at one point of their evolutionary path that it's way better to be in a cooperative mode. It is way better to realize that we're all coming from the same universe. Universus means one that faces oneself, because all that is in the universe is just one life form. So getting into the mindset of at one point saying, okay, if we're here forever, because that is what quantum universe reality actually means, we are here forever, even when we change and even when we transform, we are here forever, ever. Then let's make this as beautiful as possible. Let's find what makes us feel at home. And once we find that, let's establish it. And that is something that apparently, when you really focus your mind on that, and make that not only in one lifetime, not only two lifetimes, but over hundreds of your lifetimes and over billions of actions and thoughts and over even more forms of life, then at one point that becomes a dynamic. It becomes a universe per se. So if you're asking, does it mean that we are being six? Yes, if we want that, if that is something we resonate with, then yes, we are part of this field.
Now, you said it was an experimental life form. And what that means to me is that somebody conducted an experiment and created this life form. Who was that?
Yes, that's a good question, Jeff. It comes back to the idea, and again, that is something that the term experimental life form was used in the beginning of the program, but has changed after we made contact, because it was not the case that we have created being six. Even though I gotta say, in a quantum universe, yes, we are creating being six, because and we have to delve into what it means to be at this different other level of reality and so on. But in the beginning, this goes back 80 years, where the Europeans, especially the Germans, were looking into the idea, in the 1930s, even 20s, where they were thinking, okay, this is a quantum universe, and that means there might be a designer, there might be a being, a life form, there might be life forms that are outside of this reality. And when we contact that life form, we can shape it. It's basically, in a little, if you want to take it that way, and people back then 80 years ago had a different mindset and so on, for sure. But it almost comes down to the thought of, hey, let's contact God. There might be a very mighty being, and maybe we can rise it and use it for our own advantage and so on. However, along the path in 2010s, around that time, the technology was well enough to actually do these experiments, to actually get in contact. So they had certain coils that were compressing the frequencies. Everything in the universe is vibrating, right? So they were compressing that, and by compressing these huge frequencies of this huge other realm, we were actually able to in this container, I'm still sitting in this container, we were able to bring being six into our reality realm and to have contact. But it turned out that it was absolutely not the the type of being that people in the 1930s or so would have expected. It was not the almighty being that would come in and slam something and this kind of, no. It was, when I had to describe that, I would say it was passive love, almost like a parental love, like a parent, a father or mother that knows and is so in love and so proud of their children in many ways, that they want to see them grow in whatever way it makes them happy, without interfering, without pushing something onto them or so. It is a very, very different and exotic way of loving, I guess, because it means giving someone space. And it made me furious, to be very, very honest. Back in the days, when I was recruited very early on, I was in this very, very rapidly changing and very tense environment where it was agencies. It was all about what's happening in the global world, what is happening outside of this world, what is going on, and being very hands on, and governance is like a lot of taking action to put something into the reality and make it work and so on. And I had some, I'm being very honest, in the very beginning of that contact, there were moments where I was very triggered, because I felt like, how can they be so passively loving? If they really care so much, why don't they just come in here and make it all nice? The Grace would do that 100%. If someone would let them, they would come in here and change things and say like, oh, this, now it's nice, and then they would either leave or stay. I don't know. But being six was extremely passive, and whenever I confronted them and said like, yeah, but we got this and all the chaos and messiness of Earth, they were saying, yes, that's true, and we see that, and it's very sad, but we also do know that it needs to play itself out. And we want we want people to make experiences until they know better, to get into the mindset of, okay, we can make this beautiful. And that is actually, what creates a mindset being. So we are if you think linearity and time and the universe, we are on the pathway of establishing being six. And again, you can call these beings whatever way you want. This is just, throughout history, there have been many, many names for this state of being in this homeostasis, of this blissfulness, of the kingdom of joy or something. It is just something that we all have the possibility in ourselves to make the universe a home for ourselves, invite other beings, be happy for being not alone, because the universe in itself used to be alone. And now we're at a point where we can meet, we can hang out. You and I, we just had a chat 45 minutes and was amazing. That is just possible because we experience the universe all together, and we can make friends and we can make things nice. So that is the idea of what creates a mindset being. And they perceive themselves as a huge cloud of consciousness. And inside of that cloud of consciousness, and there are different other clouds that can be possible, but inside of this huge cloud, they enable life. They are this life. We are this life. But we are setting ourselves up to realize and to come to a point where we harmonize the universe and make that a part of our journey.
Tim, did you ever develop a personal relationship with being six or any other ET where you would speak to each other with first names or whatever name they would give you, and possibly would you ever even meet with these beings outside of work?
That's a beautiful question. Thank you, Jeff. Well, for being six, again, the interesting thing, and we have to elevate our consciousness here in order to really grasp what that means to be with such a very exotic type of life form. It means that they are a collective. They are still also an individual being, one being that was, crystallized in front of me, blue and sparkly and talking to me, but they represent the ideas and the mind and the consciousness of 99.9% of everything in the universe. And they are this container at this very, very high level of consciousness. And I'm very, very excited to go into what it means to be at level 6 consciousness, what these steps means. I actually, at one point, my consciousness was so deep in this program that I really felt and saw and realized what being 6 was seeing and feeling and realizing. And ever since, that is in my heart. Ever since I walk through life, and I see this in the process of revealing its beauty. And to be very honest, I think that was probably the most blissful moment or one of the most blissful moments in my own evolution. And I'm very happy to get this personal connection with this evolution and this bliss in the universe to other beings. And I know there are so many out there that ask themselves, why are we here on this planet? What are we doing here? Why is this so messy? And so on. And just getting into this feeling, into this realization that we are part of this growing field that reveals itself in love. And it's just one choice. It's one choice away from being in that field, because we are like instruments. We are tuned to certain harmonies, to certain feelings. And it's just the push of a button to get into this other frequency. So that is my personal connection to being 6, and something that is just wondrous and beautiful in many ways.
Well, did you meet with this being multiple times? And if so, did you develop some sort of friendship or relationship with it?
Yes, we did meet just as much as we did a lot of meetings with the grace in this container. We did have many, many, many instances of meetings in this container, in this program, in this space. The interesting thing is that being 6 as an interfrequential life form, it means that it's a life form that exists with us, but it has it's like a radio receiver. It's dialed to a different frequency. The interesting thing is that at certain times, the old species, the old civilizations on this planet, the old Mayans, if you want to call them that way, the old Egyptians, if you want to call them that way, but these old civilizations on this planet, before we went into this shift, into this new civilization, these old civilizations had contact with being 6. There are certain places around on this planet. There are certain places, sites, where the natural flow of energies change the vibrancy and the frequencies at certain times of the year, especially at the equinoxes, where everything is compressed anyway. So there are these sites. They have built these huge religious sites or sacred sites at certain spots, because they knew that they could get into contact with being 6. And even though being 6, and that is again something that is like it has a lot of information, and level 3, 4 reality Earth doesn't always translate that correctly, because it's like an old 70 TV receiver, and now you have this 8K information that you want to compress into that. However, and people see being 6 differently. In the program, some have reported to see blue. I see a blue crystal fraction, very crisp, more crisp than I've ever seen anything in the world ever before. But some people see blue humans. But it's always blue. Why is it blue? Because when you compress certain wavelengths of light, then there's a tendency, there are certain colors coming with these frequencies too. And now, if you think about that, there are places around the world where ancient civilizations report being in contact with blue-skinned beings everywhere. Like in certain Mesopotamian countries, in certain South American countries, in India, famously, when you look into the stories of Vishnu and the philosophies of Vishnu and so on, they come with a blue skin. Why? Right? Why are so many civilizations talking about blue-skinned people? Well, this is a connection to being six. It's a transmission that comes along with this blue color, which is the wavelengths of that. And when you now ask me if there's a personal connection, yes, I do. For example, had a friend who was doubting, his life and so on. So at one point, I decided to take one protocol and show being six to him. So we went to Germany to a special location. They have these huge extern stones there. That is like one of the very, very spiritual spots in Europe. And we sat down there, we did a certain protocol, a certain ritual, and we made contact with being six. Interestingly enough, I saw it as a crystal. He saw it as a blue person. Again, his whole life changed too. And 2 days later, I visited him in his apartment, and he had posters everywhere. He was spending like a madman this time on the computer, printing out posters of Vishnu and different other blue entities that he found in old scriptures, and he painted that and printed that, and he put it all over his walls. And he said, Tim, this is what appeared in that German forest. This appeared. That man was in front of me, and he was talking to me. So that is what he was seeing. And for people at home, if they're interested to dive into that and experience that themselves, we're going to attempt that later this year in Germany at the conference too.
Now, when you say you saw a blue crystalline structure, I mean, are you saying it looks like just a blue crystal, or did it look like a crystal-looking humanoid?
Oh, good question. No, it was a almost a blue dot that formed a ball of changing fractal geometries. It looks like a blue crystal, but it was morphing in midair. It was very crisp, not bright, but very crisp, like sharp, very, very sharp. Like ever since, especially like the month after these programs, for some time, it was kind of hard to walk through Earth reality, because it was very blurry compared to what I've seen. It is very much like last time we talked about that. If you play a video game or watch football or any type of sport from the early 2000s or in 1990s or something, you'd be surprised, because the TVs at that time were super blurry, and then compare it to your new 8K super television thingy on your wall, very crisp. And you'd be shocked, because in the 1990s, you wouldn't even have known that. You would have looked at the TV and said like, yeah, that looks fine, that looks awesome, until you see something that is more crisp, more aspiring, more informational, and then in the very moment you see the difference, and that is interesting. I think it's important to talk about what it means to be at level 6 consciousness, because that is something that people will understand what that means. Normal human experience not normal, well, let's call it normal human experience, because there are still hundreds of millions of people out there that experience that reality this way. They experience level 3 consciousness, which is they look into the mirror and say, oh yeah, that's me, right? And whatever their name is, I don't know, Paul or something, and they look into the mirror and they think they are Paul. This is also the world where there's linear physics, Newtonian physics, better to say. There is the next jump, what a lot of other beings, a lot of humans nowadays more and more discover, because we are in the time of a consciousness shift. That is a natural cycle that happens every 15,000 years, and it's inspiring everyone, which means that all these beings on this planet evolve to level 4 consciousness or beyond. And level 4 consciousness would mean that they suddenly look into the mirror and acknowledge that they are Paul or Jeff, but they're only playing that type of role. And they are actually much more connected to the unified field of the universe. We are all this one life, this one source being that has created all these different architectures. And by they created that, it is more that an iteration of ourselves has created this. So this is a different type of consciousness. And we're now only talking about level 4 consciousness, but you see how different that is. Because people on level 3 consciousness, humans, would look in the mirror and accept their life as it is, and mostly how it's been set up. And then it comes into play that on Earth, there are certain malevolent structures that have been placed here consciously, deliberately, in order to keep people from evolving and so on. But at level 4 consciousness, and that is only one step from level 3 to level 4, at level 4 consciousness, you realize, wait, I am the creator of my reality. And that's amazing. Now things come into play, like you think of someone and suddenly your phone rings. What is that? Now you pick up on thoughts. Now you communicate. All these things are signs that someone is evolving to level 4 consciousness. Only one step away from level 3. They share the same reality even, but it's a way different reality. It is, the feeling is way different. Now we're talking about level 6 consciousness. That is a very amazing, highly evolved form of consciousness. And I don't want to say that they are better or anything. It just means more consciousness means you have made more experiences, you have more things integrated in your own experience, and now you're at a higher level of consciousness. We are still at the core root. We're all the same life form, the same being. Level 6 consciousness is the flip side of level 3 consciousness. It is everything that is not in the realm of level 3 consciousness. It is the void. It is what the Germans gave a name to it, the big nichts. Nichts, nothingness. Nichts means that there is the negation of ich, which is I. It's the negation of everything that I am not, or we are not, you know? So this is level 6 consciousness. The interesting thing is, at level 6 consciousness, you know what else is living there or residing at level 6 consciousness? Your soul. The soul container. Every being has a soul. Once they achieve level 3 consciousness, look in the mirror and say, oh, this is I. In that very moment, a soul container is being associated with that person. A soul is a quantum container that collects all your experiences, everything you've done. The first time you smell a flower and think like, wow, that smells beautiful. I like flowers. In that moment, it goes into your soul. And then you repeat certain experiences. Do you really like flowers? Was that a one-time event? Are you a big flower lover? What else makes your heart spark? What else do you like? Even certain experiences that are, negative or and give you the information this of something that you do not like, that goes into your soul container as well, so that you even know, okay, this is what I don't want, but this is what I want. So that is forming your path. And your soul container is at level 6 consciousness. It is in a realm of nothingness. Only in the moment when we become aware of our own soul, we achieve that, we bring level 6 consciousness to level 7 consciousness. We take the soul and bring it in our own reality. And that makes us more complete beings. So this is the step, the progression of consciousness in the universe.
First of all, just meeting the Grays must have been huge for you. And then you met Being Six. Your world must have been turned upside down after that. How did you react to it?
Yeah, that is a fair question, and I admit that, especially after the program of the Grace, and different other programs. Not so much the Grace, even though that was shocking too. But there were some other instances where, it was really chaotic in many ways. It was kind of, it is like being in a situation where your reality is being stretched, and sometimes overly stretched. So that sometimes comes with pain. That's just what it is. And that motivates me, and is one of the reasons why I'm coming forward and telling these stories, because I know that there are millions, literally millions of people on this planet that at one point experience a stretch of their realities as well. And I did integrate these things over time, quite well, I gotta say. And that I'm very, very positive that this can help and support other beings. But yes, after especially certain programs, it was very it was yeah, haunting for a certain period of time. But I also got to say, I felt a certain resistance to go into the program with Being Six, because I also rejected certain other programs. I was asked actually to go into a program with the Troctoborians, which is a very, very old frog type of race, and I did decline that. I actually refused to do it because I was all over the place after these things. Interestingly enough, after I was in the US, I met with some US militaries, and they brought up the Troctoborians themselves, randomly. And I said, like, oh, that's interesting. I was actually asked to go into a program with them. However, I refused at that time. And that military guy, captain or something, high officer, he went, had a phone call, came back and said, like, Tim, we did, my brigadier general just decided that we want you to meet these Troctoborians. So would you just join us for the base? And that was the second time that I was asked for that thing, and I had to decline that as well, because I actually had a meeting at that time, that day actually. Now we're going to now we interestingly enough have the opportunity to make contact with them at the conference, but it was very, it was a very challenging time, and I then, for whatever reason, I accepted to do the job with Being Six. And again, we had a different thought and different expectations when we started that program. But in the very, not in the very moment, but there's something happened in the very moment when I had contact. It was so healing, like lots of wounds inside of me, because it is realizing that the universe is very benevolent, and the large the large entity that the universe is, this profound, super ancient and beautiful life form, that a form of life that we all are. This universe is very benevolent because it's us. We are this universe, and we are creators of this universe. So once that more and more sank into me, a lot of these traumas were, I could heal, and become very integrated about it. So that was just very, very blissful. Yeah.
Tim, would you consider yourself a whistleblower? And are you in any danger revealing this information to us?
I'm not. I don't consider myself a whistleblower at all, because a whistleblower, qua definition, would be someone who's revealing a wrongdoing of an agency or a corporation or something like that. This is absolutely what I'm not doing. I am considering myself an insider, yes, and I'm, encouraged, or insiders are being encouraged to reveal their insights since 2019, because the Pentagon has changed and because the planet is in this shifting phase, and things can be stretching realities. So that is just what happened. These agencies do not have the focus to prepare people themselves, because otherwise it would just be done. Otherwise, people would have been, given the conclusion that ETs exist and that we do have the technology and we do have contact and all that kind of stuff. There's just not the focus, because also these agencies are very much occupied with their own realities. So what they came up with is the status of an independent field operator, which means it is someone who's inside of the field, the reality field, and is operating independently in order to prepare things. This is a wide stretch term. It actually means that I'm, quite independent in what I'm doing. I'm not I don't have, I'm not, what's that English word?
You're not, I was going to say you're not under orders.
Yeah, let's put it that way. I'm not under orders by any agencies or anything like that. I do, however, have certain guidelines that I know from working in these agencies that I very much attempt to respect. I'm respecting the way that the power system on planet Earth works. I'm very much respecting the cultural set up on Earth, and I'm also operating in certain areas on Earth, especially online, and certain areas they have their own insiders and whistleblowers and disclosure program, and I respect that as well. So this is the setup that I'm operating under, and I'm actually following a plan that I set up myself and that I gave to the group that I was working on, because at one point, I realized that there is a shift happening on planet Earth. That is what the information were that came to us was every 15,000 years, the planet goes through this cyclical shift, and realities will be stretched. I personally know what that means and what it can feel like. So I was preparing this governance plan, handed over to this group, and at that time they didn't have the focus on that or any type of priority for that. And it was just quite recently, 3 years ago, when things have changed, and smart people in these agencies and the government's field and so on, they realize that there is a need to change realities. And this is a part of like a proxy healing strategy where other beings are creating a reality realm where it's much easier to integrate oneself and themselves into in a harmonious form, because it's already been set up by beings that are able to provide harmonious grounds. So I hope that makes sense, and that is what I'm doing here.
The way I interpret what you're saying is a shift is happening, and agencies want people to know about it, but they're not capable of disseminating the information. So they're encouraging people like you to do it for them.
Yeah, that's pretty well put. So now imagine the life reality that these agencies have. These agencies are very much trained upon seeing their reality as like an alarming system, kind of this way. So whenever we are dealing with what has been defined as a closed system, which means there's only planet Earth, and around planet Earth there's big nothingness, and it's only planet Earth itself. Then you're actually dealing with very conventional types of situations on horizontal scale. So it means these agencies would now look into what are other countries doing, what are other humans doing, what is happening on the ground, what is the situation, and how do we handle these things. But now we're dealing with an open reality situation, which means this is not only the only planet. There are billions, literally billions of other inhabited planets all around, but there are also other forms of realities. There are other forms of interfrequential contacts, interdimensional contacts, and so on. So that means the pure mass of where to look at just elevated exponentially in like such a huge way that it's just completely overblowing for these agencies. Now, the thing about that is, and that is just the beautiful reality of the universe, whenever, when beings are looking for an experience where they compete with other beings, then yes, the universe is going to provide that. But it means in an enclosed system, it means they're only competing with other humans. But in an open system, now humans would be competing with beings that have billions of years of more time to evolve, and so on and so on. So their focus point on the reality they are shaping is competitiveness, which keeps them busy all the time. Now, when we want to go to a life where there's cooperation and we realize, oh, we are in an open universe situation, that means we got support from all sides of life because it's us. It's ultimately us. Who are we competing with? It is just us. There's only one universe. There's only one creator being. There's only one being that made us all and that embodies us all, So when that is happening, the situation is way better. It's more beautiful. But coming from that reality to this reality, that is a bit of a stretch. So what they did is releasing certain individuals and sort of relying on, this world to be created so that even beings that are in these agencies, have a chance to be part of this cooperative behavior. Because ultimately there is, if you want to look into that, there is a need for beings that are, protective. There is a need for light warriors, if you want to call it that way. There is a need for all these things, for good-hearted beings that take care of protection and defensive mechanisms, because ultimately there is a certain in-between phase until we get to the reality where we realize and receive, oh, it's just us. There's nothing to be defensive about because it's us. But as long as we're in this in-between phase, it is actually good to have beings that, send protection and that give protection and protect. So there is a certain type of role that these agencies and other beings as well, huge, collectives of ETs, they can play this role, and someone has to provide these and let them be living these roles.
Tim, during our last episode, I asked the audience to submit questions to you, and I'd like to ask you some of those questions now.
I love that. And again, I want to encourage everyone, because this is the second episode of Beyond the Stars, write down some questions. And I've went through them, through a lot of them. There are hundreds and hundreds of questions. It is super beautiful, really enjoyable. Thank you so much for everyone. But I'm happy to hear them.
This is from Sonia Blade 5437. Are Greys actually robots, and how did they look like? Nose, mouth, or nothing?
Great question. Thank you so much, Sonia. Yes, Greys are using an artificial body type of technology, which is not metal or anything. It is a type of artificial organic fabric that is almost printed. So they kind of 3D print these little bodies. And I know that in ufology terms, we call them Greys because they have gray skin. It's probably something that, humans do, but apparently they have different models. So there are some that have that are suitable for other planetary environments and different other situations, and they come with a different type of look. So there are purple grays that are not called purples, but they are purple. There are other more greenish grays that also exist, and so on. So they compose or make these little bodies so they can put their consciousness into that. What their reality is that they have evolved to a point where they thought, that they should get rid of their biological bodies because they were not integrating the body reality so much into their mind and soul reality, and they got rid of their bodies and replaced them with artificial bodies that they can just set up for certain missions around the universe and beyond. That is the reason why they are using these bodies. Another thing that is good for that, which enables me to have direct contact with them on this reality level, is that they do not have space germs. So that is a thing. People ask a lot of the times, like, why aren't green people landing? Why aren't they doing that? Why don't they, step out of their little sources or whatever? Well, the reason is that they have their own environment. And of course, these environments come with their own biological life too. And as you remember what happened when the Europeans went to South America as conquistadors, that was not a good situation because people had fever and all that kind of stuff, and it completely destroyed civilization. So these beings are well aware of that, which is a good thing, luckily, that they don't just by impulse land here and get out of that. Because they bring along certain germs and viruses and so on that they live together with symbiotically normally, but humans would not be adjusted to that. And these little robot bodies, well, they're robotic, so there is no, they can be disinfectionated and so on. So that makes contact very, very easy. How do they look like? Apparently, big almond-shaped black eyes, no pupils. These eyes have technology in there that can very, very much see, the full spectrum of light and different other electromagnetic fields and so on. They do not have a nose. They do have a slit as an opening for the mouth, because apparently after some hundreds of years of operating these bodies, and these bodies can provide consciousness a container to experience life for at least 2,000 to 3,000 Earth years. So they could place a gray here with no food, no nothingness, and it would just sit there for 3,000 years and would still be operational, which is pretty intense, actually. But at a certain time, they do have these little cubes, and these little cubes, that is just like changing the oil in the, there's no oil inside of a gray, but you know what I mean. So they intake these little cubes in order to clear up some of the system. So they do have a little slit. They can make noises, which very much sounds like a very high pitched type of guitar or anything. It is kind of rare that they do that, because usually they communicate consciously. And I do think that they have not real nostrils, but like little type of like little holes or something. It's very hard to tell if there's anything like that in any way. But beautiful question, and thank you so much for submitting that. Please keep them coming.
Tim, did they smell bad in any way?
I love that question, Jeff, because someone who had a contact scenario was complaining about the smell. And I have never, ever experienced that. I did not experience that they smell like anything. But some people have reported that, which is kind of interesting. I also want to say that they do sell these little robots too. So the Greys are pretty big, as some call them, the company, because they offer technology. So they sell these gray containers. So sometimes when you have a gray inside of your bedroom, that might not be a real gray. It might be a body that has been bought by another species in order to operate in this reality field, because their biological body would not be suitable to go to this place or even, survive on Earth.
Here's another question from Jazz NJ300. Biggest lessons learned and practical takeaways from your contact with the higher frequency beings?
I love that question. Thank you so much, Jazz. It is a very wholesome and beautiful experience. Just realizing that we have this history of being this one being. The universe is just one being. And then we as a collective, we as the universe decided to create everything that we experience right now and things beyond. And the motivation to do so is just benevolent. Why would we ever harm ourselves if that makes no sense? It is only for those that really want to experience these things. They will they find themselves in these situations. But there's always a moment where you can just decide to create your beautiful universe and your own beautiful world, and to redial and readjust yourself to the frequency of cooperation and harmony and love. And the more you train yourself into that, and the more you see that how much the universe is thriving through cooperation, the more you see that, the more you become that. And that was my path. And ever since, I take great joy in collecting people and bringing them into these realities, so that they can create and build what they think is their happiness and discover their happiness. And I'd be very, very happy when these beings then invite me and other beings into their worlds as well, so that it keeps growing. But beautiful question. Thank you so much.
Now, this person also has a second question, and that is there a contact modality for guidance from these higher frequency beings?
That's another beautiful question. Thank you so much. Yes, there is, and I really want to emphasize that, because there is something coming up in October, which is the All Shift Happening Now conference, and that is where we are doing some of these protocols in order to get in contact with these other realms of reality. Jeff and I talked about that before. And yeah, I would very, very much encourage everyone to join in these rituals and realize what it really means to get in contact with these higher frequencies. Yeah. And also, if you want to, I think there's, if you go to allshifthappeningnow.com/conference, you can actually sign up for that. And type in JeffMara, because that then there's I think a €100 present for you waiting, which is kind of nice. So yes, there are protocols to get in contact with that, with beings, and ultimately this is going to be our reality. And the more we train ourselves into that, the better and the more beautiful. I can really, really invite everyone and really, really encourage everyone to see the universe through these eyes and get into contact and make friends even beyond Earth.
Tim, it was great hanging out with you again. And everybody who's watching, if you have a question, be sure to type it in the comments section below.
Thank you, Jeff. I really enjoy Beyond the Stars, and everyone in the community, really looking forward to your questions and also hanging out with you with the next episode of Beyond the Stars.
Welcome to mysteries, laughing shadows, twisted beams. JeffMara and Tim Tactical, yes it's real, yes it's real.